we'll start at, we're going to start at the south end of Wellesley Drive. So here along Edmondson Road, there's an existing sidewalk that our alternative will tie into beginning right here. Going along this first block, we propose like a 2-foot curb bump out into the roadway. This will allow us to fit a 5-foot sidewalk and allow us to tie into the existing driveways just because of some of the steeper slopes. We'll also be able to avoid a tree pit around here. And then this bump out ties back into the existing storm drain right here at Creighton Drive. The next block along here, we maintain the existing curb line, and we'll have another 5-foot sidewalk along here, tying into the driveways again and the sidewalks. Along the next block, we propose another 2-foot curb bump out. This will allow us to preserve some of the trees in the yards and make it easier for us to tie into the existing driveways. And then we do tie in quickly again at this storm drain right here, and then we bump out again to the 2 feet again. Then we continue along. In this next block, we follow along the existing curb line again with a 5-foot sidewalk, tie into the existing driveways. On this next block, again, we have a 5-foot sidewalk tying into the driveways. At this inlet, we then propose a 3-foot curb bump out into the roadway. This allows us to tie into some of the steeper driveways and also avoid a utility pole around this curve. And as we come along Wellesley, we come towards the intersection with Sweetbriar. We tie back into the existing curb line on Sweetbriar. And then with this last driveway tie-in, we go along to where the Anacostia tributary trail system is, and we'll have a crossing here that ends the sidewalk.
And in case some of you are wondering, we did bump out in select spots only, and that was to try to keep as much of the proposed improvements within the right-of-way as we can. The city will work with everyone and we'll discuss and look at driveways in great detail as we move forward into the actual preliminary design stage. But that's kind of the driving factor of why some lines were bumped out and others were not. Okay, go ahead, Ari.
Second alternative.
Actually, Ari, could you show the proposed?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So in addition, we have a rendering here that will show what it looks like to have the 5-foot sidewalk on this northbound side of the road. We even have some driveway tie-ins presented here.
And so in this alternative one, we're seeing an effective width and roadway reduction, the width and reduction of somewhere between like 2 and 3 feet because of those curb line bump outs. And that's not everywhere. It's just, again, in some of those spots, and that's to accommodate the sidewalk where we need to. So there's still enough space for two-way traffic and parking on both sides. Okay, alternative 2.
All right, we can start alternative 2 again at Edmondson Road. This one is on the southbound lane, so there would be a crossing from the existing sidewalk here to get over to it. On this side, there's a lot of utility poles along the curb line, so we do bump out the sidewalk and create a small buffer, sometimes around like 3 feet. So you'll see that, for example, here where it goes slightly behind, still tying into the driveways and sidewalks. So here again, it mostly stays along the curb line, but bumps out to avoid these utility poles. This next block continues again. It's a 5-foot sidewalk tying into the existing driveways and avoiding some of the utility poles, but the curb line itself is staying the same. And again, you'll see it's a 5-foot sidewalk tying into the driveways.
And if you could just pause for 1 second, Ari, I just want to point out that the fire hydrants that are on this side of the roadway, we are working with them. We'll provide enough passing distance behind, so we'll have enough effective width for people to still get around the fire hydrants, because our goal is not to relocate them. Okay, Ari.
And it continues around the curve heading towards the Sweetbriar intersection. We do add a bump out for this fire hydrant here with enough space to go behind it. And then as you get towards Sweetbriar, we have another crossing to cross the street here, and then take this 5-foot sidewalk down towards the trail. And this has a consistent 3 foot grass buffer along here. And then we can go to the rendering. This time the sidewalk is on the southbound lane along here, and it shows it's avoiding one of the utility poles.
So there are some locations, like I mentioned earlier, where we may need to look at going a little bit less than a 5 foot wide sidewalk. 5 foot is the goal that we'd really love to provide everywhere, but sometimes it may not be able to happen. And it's because we're working with a lot of competing site constraints. We have the utility poles, the slopes, we're trying to work with driveways, avoid and minimize tree impacts as much as possible, or other site features, and then utilities as well. Because when we bump the curb lines out into the road, we have to be mindful of what we have going on within the pavement in the subgrade. Those utility lines, manholes, their size is underground, and keep all of that in mind and consider it as we move into preliminary design, which we certainly will. So this meeting tonight is to look at the concepts and get the public's feedback to be able to see if there is one alternative that's preferred over the other that we can progress to the next design stage, the actual engineering component. Steve or Jacob, do we want to open it up to Q&A, or do you have anything else you'd like to add into the presentation?
We just had a few questions that were pre-submitted, so I want to make sure I give some answers to those first, and then we'll be happy to go right into the Q&A, answer those questions, and get additional feedback. Some of the questions submitted, what is the origin of the project? So as I referenced at the beginning, the Complete and Green Streets program as a whole was adopted back in April of 2016. Wellesley Drive was the third highest rated street segment selected by mayor and city council as part of an implementation plan in March 2021. And then funding for design was included in the current fiscal year budget. So that means we're currently in the design and concept phase. The construction phase is currently scheduled for next fiscal year, 2027, which would be July 2026 to June 2027. Another question that's come up, and understandably so, is the requirements to clear ice and snow. And yes, residents, regardless of the location of the sidewalk, if you have sidewalk along any side of your property, our city code chapter 141-5 does make it clear that occupants or owners have to remove and clear ice, sleet, and snow that can impede safe pedestrian traffic on that sidewalk. Right now, we do not have any parking restrictions proposed for implementation, and contractor will replace all driveways to ensure proper drainage and accessibility, and that work, including the sidewalk work, is guaranteed for 1 year by the contractor. With that, I think we're ready to open it up to the Q&A. Let me go in for the comments here. And Stacy, if you want to start with the grass question, I think you're better equipped to answer that since we have a utility pole right in this picture here that shows some grass. So,
okay, it's the vision to have grass on both sides of the sidewalk. Alternative one has a harder time providing a grass buffer everywhere. Ideally, we'd love to provide it because it does provide that extra separation to the roadway, but alternative one really didn't have a whole lot of it. And alternative one also required us to bump out further into the roadway. So this is when we put sidewalk on the northbound or the right side of it, as you see it in the picture here. On the left side, southbound side, west side of Wellesley, we have grass buffers in select spots, usually to be able to meander around utility poles. However, that's not to say that we can't look at opportunities to explore other opportunities to be able to provide other grass buffers. This is only a conceptual design stage, so we can certainly look into that and keep that in mind to try to provide more grass buffer space. I think the minimum we'd want to maintain is at least 2 feet. 3 feet would be ideal, but that's something we'll know more and be able to show to you at our next public meeting once we dig into the design more and can run sections and look at what's going on with your individual driveways. One other question I see, Jacob, up top says, does alternative one involve any tree removals? Ari, I don't think we had any shown on alternative one. There are measures we can take to avoid impacts to trees. Now, we bumped out here on the southern part of Wellesley Drive, just south of Creighton. There was a really nice tree that has the decorative stone tree pit support around it. We're not touching that. We really don't want to get into taking out trees unless they were directly impacted by our proposed improvements and or were in very poor condition, and probably something that the homeowners want to take out anyway. As of now, I don't recall seeing any. However, we haven't had our tree natural resources team go out to take a look at the trees yet. So that will be something that's done after a concept alternative is selected. One question, are these designs available to view online? Jacob, we provided these concept roll maps to you, if you want to just speak to that question.
Yes, I did provide the link down further in the chat. Because of the format of the meeting, I can't mark them as answered like the Q&A format, but I am trying to answer questions. So if you asked a question, please scroll down further in the chat to see if I have left a response. The cost difference one, I think, is it'll probably be best answered by you, Stacy, since you know all the ins and outs of the design concepts and what all they entail in terms of the curbs and utilities and whatnot.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a fairly close track between both alternatives. I will say that when you get into extensive driveway reconstruction and steep slopes, that pushes the cost up because we have to do more grading. Our contractor has to do more out there. We'd be potentially looking at some cut, maybe doing some backing curb, but we pushed it out into the road where we needed to try to keep that to a minimum. So I would say that they're probably fairly close in line, and we will have a better idea of that once we get into more of the actual engineered design. At this concept level, we looked at it from a very high level perspective of what can we do, what can we show, and we ran each driveway to kind of look at how the driveways tie in. But once we pick an alternative, we'll do more of that refinement to see what's going on in between the driveways and see where we're going to get into those higher costs. But I think for the sake of this meeting at this level, they will be fairly close to one another. Comment, will the school bus stop be moved depending on which proposal goes forward? It is not our intention to relocate any bus stop, so no.
I did add a comment in there about the bus stop. The council member Ranker spoke with us about this earlier, and depending on what side of the street is selected, we can accommodate a safe crossing depending on which direction the bus is coming, to make sure no matter if it's in the morning or the afternoon that the students have safe access.
Okay. A question about property values. Steve or Jacob, would you like to speak about
that? We do not have any assessments or costs to property owners when new sidewalks are installed, and in at least the state of Maryland, but also in other areas, sidewalks are statistically proven to raise property values due to the safety and connectivity that the sidewalks add to communities.
One comment.
Stop signs. We will certainly evaluate the intersections along the roadway to see if there's any sight distance concerns that would warrant installation of stop signs.
Okay. Timing of the installation, I think construction. I believe that's a construction related question.
Yes, construction is currently scheduled for next fiscal year. So that would be July 2026 through June 2027. We anticipate construction will not take that long. It will take about 6 months. Construction will also flow in the direction of traffic. So if the sidewalk is installed on the south side, it will start at Sweetbriar and work its way down to Edmonston Road. If it's selected for the north side, it will be the opposite. It will start on Edmonston Road and work its way up the hill to Sweetbriar. To answer Ken's question, we are uh, sending out another survey to all residents on Wellesley Drive following this meeting with specific questions regarding preferences for alignment. We sent out a survey back in the fall that was more of a community focused survey, and this survey as a follow-up will be exclusively targeted to the residents that live on Wellesley Drive so we can hear more about their preferences and concerns.
Okay, I think, Jacob, that's all the questions I see. If we want to give, oh, another one came up. Is it possible to minimize disruption to lots and instead use more of the road itself? Wellesley is quite wide. We use our front yard extensively with our kids, and while the sidewalk is exciting in some ways, we rely on our front yard for play space. To respond to that, we are looking at it and we are bumping out the curb lines quite a bit, but we are constrained because we don't want to touch inlets. We want to keep those in place because we don't want to change existing drainage patterns. So if you think of it this way, so the road typically has a crown. I'm going to use my hands because I use them to describe it. So the road, let's just say in an exaggerated perspective, looks like this. And when you're putting in like a shift to the curb line and you get farther in toward that crown, it does make it harder for drainage to continue where it's already going today to maintain that natural drainage path to get to inlets so that they can perform and function as they were intended to. So when you bump out the curb line farther, it gets a little bit more difficult to accommodate that drainage. So this project itself is really focused on the PED accommodation and not redoing the drainage inlets because that will make this different and more expensive project. So we bumped out the curb lines as much as we could where we had to be able to provide those adequate driveway tie-ins. But we are also trying to be mindful of where the driveways go, where the curb lines go out into the roadway, particularly as we get farther north, closer to Sweetbriar. There are a lot of utilities in the roadway and manholes that have a bigger width underground than we realize or that people would realize typically. So we're trying to look out for where we're reconstructing. We will keep it in mind, though, if there's a way to preserve some more of your green space, we will. But again, we're just trying to work with what's here, what's along your frontage versus what's under the road and what's happening with the drainage. Okay, next question. Alternative 1 offers a seamless connection to Sweetbriar, which would seem to consider crossing safety. Okay, to encourage crossing safety. Okay, and that's our goal. We really want to provide a good, safe connection for everyone to get from Edmonston all the way up to Sweetbriar and the trail. Jacob, the next one from Tom about the Civic Association.
We will send out mailers to those addresses on the street itself. And additionally, from the original survey, a number of those addresses did provide emails to get updates on this project. We can try to work together to get the information out. I do know that many residents have concerns about the timeliness of mail delivery, so we will be keeping the survey open for multiple weeks to ensure if there's any late arriving mail that people still have access to the survey.
Yeah, I mean, in this modern era, most people aren't checking their mail so much, but if you have an email listserv to share, I'm happy to add it to our list, but I don't want to start, duplicating services or anything like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can work together to make sure that people have the information they need to give the feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question, are we seeking input about which option is preferred? We do always listen to feedback as best as we can in terms of considering your requests and being able to provide them from an engineering perspective while sticking to the budget that we have. But we really would like to hear what you folks have to say. And that's why we're here for this public meeting. And that's why we're going to have another one once we have a preferred alternative so you can look at it and voice your concerns. Question about the cost of the project. We did not share costs of the project. We think they'll track about the same. We haven't gotten into the detailed engineering design yet to be able to provide a good cost from you. It's too much of a contingency at this point, but we will have that for you moving forward after a concept is selected. Okay. We can wait, Jacob and Steve, a couple more minutes for other questions.
Is there a verbal component to the questions?
Yes.
Yeah. So I thanks for getting back to me, Steve, on questions. I mean, I honestly find this expansion completely unnecessary. This is a very quiet, safe street. And with the recent snow, I took pictures, and to call it after building a sidewalk of 5+ feet, having two-way traffic easily accessible with parked cars is not the reality of the situation, particularly at the end of Wellesley, at the Edmonton side. And if there's no parking enforcement and people continue to park like that, it's going to cause many cars to get hit turning into Wellesley if cars are 5 feet further into that intersection. I'm on the Chestnut Hill side, so for me, and again, this is my whole thing about, we're taking public feedback. We're not engineers, so I could tell you which side I want it on or don't want it at all, but you guys probably are going to go through with whatever makes the most sense. So, I mean, I would want it on the north side, opposite my street, because I don't want the extra effort of having to shovel 100+ more feet of ice and snow that haven't been a necessity for 22 years we've lived there. So that's just my own kind of rant, if you will, but that's how I feel.
That's okay, Ken. We appreciate hearing that because you're someone that lives there, and I don't live on this road. So I always like having the community feedback so I can understand your perspective. I think one of the comments you had was that it was bumped out 5 feet into the road. And I want to say, just like with alternative 1 that's on the screen right now, we're only bumping the curb line out 2 feet into the road for this alternative. The other side, alternative 2, doesn't bump out into the roadway at all. So there'd be no adjustment to the roadway width for alternative 2 in this segment. Alternative 1 is the only alternative that does these select curb line bump outs. It's 2 feet here. And then as we get farther north, closer to Sweetbriar, we bump it out a little bit more, closer to 3 feet. And that was because of those steep slopes that are coming down to the road. It's a balance of trying to fit the curb in where we can to provide that sidewalk without having to do a lot of grading into people's yards. And also provide those good driveway tie-ins for you, because we really need those to be able to work.
Yes, yeah. My wife's on this call too, but her husband or her father had a similar sidewalk project in Riverdale Park, and his driveway is horrible, and it's never been fixed. Or you drive there, and it's a steep. It literally is like a 3-inch drop off his driveway. So and he's stuck with it, and it is what it is. But so I appreciate the 1-year warranty, but I mean, I don't have we won't be impacted by a driveway, even if it's on our side. Our driveway is on Chestnut Hill. So, but I appreciate and respect other people who might be impacted with their driveways.
Ken, just for clarification, I think you're on the north side. I think you said south side.
Yes, we are on the north side, but so I prefer the thing onto the north side, which would be the opposite side.
I just think you said south earlier. That's all I'm clarifying.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so I would prefer it on the north side from us.
Okay, Jacob, I see a poll that's on screen now. Did you send that?
I did send the poll out just to get anonymous feedback regarding those who may not want to put their preferences in the chat. And obviously, we will have more opportunities via another survey for residents to give feedback. But this is just to get a general sense of the community's interest at this meeting.
Yeah, Jacob, I was just bringing it up because honestly, why I was mentioning the listserv is I have almost no Wellesley residents that were, I'll call it, invited to this meeting. And that's why I'm particularly cautious about, you're going to get a bunch of Sweetbriar Drive votes, which I'm all for, but I don't want to bias your whole event here.
Right, because they're not going to be
Understood.
the ones impacted by it. I mean, at all. So, or very few anyway. So,
Jacob, I'm Mike Williams here. I'm on the call. I'm on Wellesley. I live on Wellesley, and my wife is part of the call as well. We will endorse option one for sure, and a real good job. Thank you all for the review on the call. Thanks.
This is Wendy, Michael's wife, and I dropped my feedback into the chat supporting option one. And, we're happy to collaborate as that design moves forward. We may have a tree in the way. Specifically, you may have already looked at it, but we think alternative one really not only will help for pedestrian foot traffic, but the way it will help natural transition onto Sweetbriar for access to the lake. We see a lot of foot traffic, a lot of families, a lot of biking and so forth at this lower part of the slope. So that sidewalk will be very helpful.
but bikes will be impacted by having a sidewalk. I mean, they won't be on the sidewalk, but
Understood. Understood. But just helping with that separation.
are you guys on the Chestnut Hills? Are you guys on side one or side two?
We're on side one.
Oh,
They're
So
on
you
the
guys
same
would-
side as you, Ken.
right. Are you nervous about your driveway being impacted? Because I would be, but
We're going to collaborate and make sure it all goes smoothly.
good luck.
Yeah, we're not gonna poo-poo this great idea, which also helps to beautify the neighborhood. So we'll be on side one, and good job by the engineering team.
Thank you. I will say I am hearing your concerns, Ken, about the driveways, and we're going to be looking at them very closely. We want to provide a design that's going to work, not just from a construction and cost standpoint, but a perspective of the homeowners, because you're the ones that have to live with this every day for years. So we want to design something that's going to be helpful and good for you. And I'm hoping that if some of the driveways maybe have problems today, maybe it makes it better, but we certainly don't want to leave you in a situation where things are worse off than when we started. That is not the goal of this project.
Sure.
Thank you, Diana, for your comments. I'm just monitoring the chat.
Yeah, that would be my preference to the alternative to so on the south side, I think is the way I'm listening.
Okay. Regards to the survey, including a no build option, City Council has already approved the design phase of this project. So city staff has been instructed to proceed with design of sidewalk on the street, and we are just selecting the side that it will be installed on. So a no build option is not going to be on the survey because city staff has already been given instruction by the elected officials of the city to install to proceed with design of sidewalk on this roadway as part of the Complete and Green Streets program.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Nancy, and I'm right where that white truck is on Creighton and Wellesley. And the two things that I thought about is that intersection has a tendency to flood. And also when they plow the snow, they come down Creighton and plow the snow right into the front of my house. And I'm in my first 60s, it would be hard for me to clear the snow if we got what we just had.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because they do. They come down Crichton and they go right into my front yard with it.
Same with us on Chestnut Hill. I mean, we had, I mean, it was 3 feet tall by 20 feet long in front of our corner of Wellesley and Chestnut. And I'm fortunately able-bodied to do it, to move it, but I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I mean, I noticed the city didn't even plow do the sidewalk over on Edmonston for a week because we had snowcrete. So I mean, down here. So I mean, I hope there would be leniency on that. Where, I mean, if we had what we had before, nobody's walking on the sidewalks anyway. So
But just something to think about. I'm
yeah, for
thrilled
sure.
with
Appreciate it,
having the
Nancy.
sidewalk put in,
Mhm.
regardless of the side. I'm just worried about where the snow plows come down and plow the yard in. If they were to come up on the sidewalk, I wouldn't be able to clear it.
Understood. And these are great points. I know the snow removal is fresh on everybody's mind after the event that we had to deal with earlier this winter. And our team is trying to put together updated sidewalk listings and make the crews more aware of where the ramps are and everything so that we really aren't making things harder for people who are trying to do the right thing and clear off their sidewalks in a timely manner. So definitely appreciate those comments.
Okay, Jacob, there are a couple other comments that came in about the options that a few people prefer. And then one comment, the last one was about basically a no build alternative, which Jacob, you spoke to before, which is not on the table because this project is already in motion with the city officials.
Right. That would have been, in last year's budget discussions, the Complete and Green Streets program is a CIP project which gets approved every year by the city council as part of the budget process. So that gets approved in May. So this project was included in last year's budget, which was approved in May. So in terms of which elected officials decided to move forward with this project, that would have been the council members that were prior to the current council. So we had city elections in December 2025. So the project was included in the Complete and Green Streets CIP that was approved in May 2025 by the previous council. I will get a listing off the website from, I believe we have a listing of that on the website in terms of providing names.
Okay. We'll give another minute or two, a couple more minutes to see if anyone else has questions. I think we ran through everyone on the chat so far.
Tom Lipkin, Mike Williams here. Did you state earlier that there were some missing Wellesley residents off this call? Is that what I heard? I can't hear you. Cannot hear you.
Thanks. There we go. Yeah, to put it mildly, I mean, it's a pretty biased list. It's pretty much on any social event that I've hosted is about all the list I have. So the few of you I do know in Wellesley, you're all pretty much here. I don't know everyone else. That's one. I don't have any email addresses for Crichton, Chestnut Hill, things like that. So I'm just trying to promote the democracy of this. And as someone who lived on Sweetbriar, my list is severely inadequate. So
Tom,
that's, yeah.
Would you be open to, and maybe Michael and I think it was Wendy, I don't have and maybe would you guys be mailing something would be great, but I mean, it might be something we even knock on doors. I would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I'll be just so kind of everybody knows everyone. Michael's a neighbor down about a few doors from you, Ken. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
got
mean
it.
it really is there is almost the limited civic association we have is pretty much me as a message holder. I'm always happy to kind of do what I can and walk the dog at the same time. But yeah, the list is severely hamstrung, and I've not really thought through how to get beyond a 10% participation rate when we have 300 households. And limited Spanish for me, things like that. So I don't want to derail this meeting with that, but Ken, I'm open to, I'll call it everyone gets a fair fight, including Matt, who sounds like he's not particularly, on board with the sidewalk. So he's your neighbor too, if you were unaware. So
Yeah.
um, so I was thinking the same thing, I admit, kind of but if the train is left, I leave that, Matt, to speak up on your own candor. We all know each other, so we're all neighbors.
I do have a follow-up question. This is Matt. Um, it sounds like you guys are coming to us for public feedback, but it sounds like the decision was already made. Is that correct? And if so, I'm not sure if I understand the public engagement process here.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say. I just was kind of agreeing to a degree, but I'm happy to. I don't want to answer any about the decision making. That's for them to do that.
Right.
Yeah, so I mentioned the implementation plan from 2021, and then the programming of sidewalks is done through the budget process every year. So we just wrapped up, our city manager and our finance director just wrapped up the budget listening sessions for the upcoming fiscal year budget, and they have those listening sessions prior to the release of the proposed city manager's budget every spring. So that is the time for residents to give feedback on projects, things they want to see or don't see in their neighborhoods. And they can give comment to the mayor and council as well as the executive team of the city. And then the city council goes through their budget work session and deliberations, and then ultimately approves the projects and the CIPs that staff will be working on. That means that at that time is when staff receive, a listing of the projects they're expected to work on for the upcoming year, and then we initiate our own internal engagement processes for those projects. So that's what you're seeing here. So this project would have been approved in last year's budget, and so engagement on if this was included in the budget or not, that would have been March of 2025. The council adopted the budget in May 2025, and it went into effect July 1st. And at that time, the city engineer, Steve Halpern, and I started to bring consultants on board for our projects and initiate our public engagement based on the instructions that we receive from the elected officials, mayor and city council, as well as the city's executive leadership team. So that's sort of the workflow. I do understand that it's complicated because it takes so long to get a project, funded, designed, and constructed. It's essentially can be a 2 to 3 year process depending on the scope of the project. So I do understand the concern about that, but at that time, or I should say at this time, that's the workflow that staff works off to implement these projects. So the mayor and city council continue to accept feedback regarding the projects that they're approving, as well as designs and ideas for them. So please, will include their email to reach out to them as well in the chat,
Yeah,
so that
it sounds
people
like
can.
it sounds like you're saying that there has been no direct outreach about this project until today. Is that right?
Not exactly. There was a survey and website posting back in the fall. There was a resident letter sent out on October 1st, 2025 to the residents on the street in a mailing, uh, residents who we had on file in our emails. We sent those out as well. We engaged our communications team in our weekly bulletin as well. So we definitely encourage people who do not receive the city's weekly bulletin to sign up for those as well. We sent these out together for both projects that we're working on in this fiscal year. So Wellesley Drive and 48th Place, so that people in the community could give commentary on both projects.
Let me follow up on that. Was there a no build option in that survey?
No, because the survey happened after the council approved the budget for the project.
Okay, so you understand that what you're doing is engaging the public after the decision has been made.
I do understand that. I'm housed in the Department of Public Works, and the approval for the CIP projects is not housed in this department. It is housed with the finance department and the city's administration. I completely understand, but unfortunately, the way it's laid out here, we initiate our engagement after we are given direction to proceed with a project.
And during the budget process, the public does have an opportunity to speak on these various projects that are listed to our residents.
I didn't recall seeing that, and I know I would have been responding to that. The only thing I got was about the design concept. I did not remember any major sidewalk. As I recall, this was voted on in 2016 initially, so it's something that has been lingering. It was a dire need in 2016, but 10 years later, we don't have a sidewalk, and I quite frankly don't think we need one. But I'm at this point it's whatever, but just a little late. But
of course, I can't say or speak to what you could have seen 10 years ago, but I do know that you can come to council any Tuesday night and speak your mind on whatever the projects are, whatever you want.
I did include the email to submit feedback to mayor and council. That's the CPMC email that they've received public comment on items. And then I'll include the email for this project for staff.
Thanks, Jacob.
As well. That's the engineering at College Park MD. That notifies both me and the city engineer, Mr. Halpern, of your comments as well. And if you can email, you can email CPMC before council meetings, and the comments are accepted as part of the public record and published to the website as well. So I just wanted to include that as well. You can send an email regarding any topic. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the agenda to them. And I am saving the chat history so that staff and the consultant to review. There's a lot of great comments in here. We definitely want to try and address the concerns and work as a team to pick the best option. Alicia just asked the results of the poll. The anonymous poll results that I put out have 12 respondents on the north side and 0 respondents for the south side. However, I do see comments in the chat preferring the south side, so we're going to incorporate that into these results upon reviewing the chat and having our post review. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer. We just wanted to do it anonymously as well, so that if people didn't want to be pressured into putting their preference into the chat, we just didn't want that to prevent anybody from giving feedback. And you can always email the engineering email if you have more comments or you want to state your preference after the meeting.
And you mentioned, or maybe Steve mentioned it, there's going to be another session, feedback session at some point.
At this time, we're going to have the survey go out to the residents on the street.
Okay.
And then we have to take the item to the city council for formal approval of selecting a concept. At that time, there is a public engagement as part of that process. So any item that gets brought to the city council, anyone can give public comment on those items. So there will be an opportunity to share feedback with the 8 council members and mayor in person at that meeting. And we'll be sure to get the date out once it's advertised, as well as the email so you can submit ahead of time for inclusion in the record in case you're unable to attend the meeting.
Right. That's likely months away, though, at this point. I mean, if we're waiting for a survey, I'm just trying to understand the timing. Like,
absolutely,
right?
yes, and
Yeah.
and the construction phase would not, that's further into, that's in the next fiscal year. So
Right.
yes, there's definitely time until that process goes forward to the council on this project.
Jacob, to clarify though, the next fiscal year is 4 months away.
That is correct.
Just kind of answering it. It's not that far away in my mind, but
yeah.
Okay.
Right. Criteria for final decision. We pull together multiple factors, including cost, alignment, disruptions. Excuse me. There are things that pop up in this meeting. For example, the school bus stop, that was not something that the project team had really considered a lot of before the meeting. So we appreciate those types of comments from the community because that is a safety concern that we want to address. So there's a number of factors that will play into the recommendation that we give to council for the selection, but it's ultimately up to the city council to approve the side for the sidewalk installation and proceeding with the design. Alicia, I greatly appreciate your comments here. I understand the frustration with the process, and we will see how we can potentially work with the finance team and promoting our CIP program. It's not just sidewalk installation. There's a number of projects that take years to materialize that we want to make sure we're getting feedback on. So we will explore options to better integrate those feedback opportunities and make sure people know that they're able to comment on projects like this at those types of budget meetings.
This is Matt. Just one last thing. I work on capital projects for the District of Columbia. This is essentially the same work that I do on a daily basis. And the idea that a decision is already made before you start a project is not really public engagement.
No, understood the comment. How much weight does the resident vote count? We do include we strip out results from the survey and provide that as part of the packet to council as part of the recommendation, just so they know what the resident sentiment is before they vote on the item. We are almost at time. Please ask any additional questions verbally. Thank you for coming. I thank you. Seeing a comment about responding to the questions. I hope I got everything in the chat. And please do not hesitate to reach out to the elected officials and or the staff here will be happy to answer any questions or come out and talk through any concerns that you may have regarding driveways, trees, utilities, and whatnot.
Before we wrap up, I'd just like to say I'm Sherry. I'm Ken's wife. I live on Wellesley, and my biggest concern with the sidewalk is shoveling. So, and I understand that according to code, it's the homeowner's responsibility, but we didn't purchase the house with a sidewalk. And I'm wondering if there's any possibility to consider an exception where the crews who do the sidewalk along Edmonston, I'm assuming that's not the resident's responsibility, at least on the side that's not on the side with houses, if they could continue this whole path of sidewalk that's being created to allow people to travel easily to the park, if that could be considered an exception in the process moving forward.
Ken,
That
I'm
would
gonna take-
be, oh, sorry, Tom, go ahead.
No, I'm going to take a chance. Sherry, the thing that runs through my head right now is how we share a snowplow.
Yeah.
That does not answer any question, I realize, but we're a pretty good community group, and I'd like to think we could, on a bad day, at least communicate how to share one. But by all means, please, I encourage tax dollars to do. I don't have any more driveways I want to shovel personally, but
Yeah, we're already at
anyway,
three.
I'm just looking for compromise. Yeah.
Jacob, before you leave, I do want to say that when you and Sherry, thanks for mentioning the new sidewalk up on Edmonston. It was a great job, and I see people every day using it. Kids are able to kind of, trail behind their parents with the bicycles or whatever, and it is a great addition to our community. So I just it's quite naturally to think that we'd have a fantastic sidewalk in a way that folks can walk down to the park and not in the middle of the street with their fishing poles and so on. So just looking forward to another fine job by the city. So thank you.
All right, we are at 8 o'clock, but please keep sending us any questions that you may have. And if you provided your email in our prior survey, you should be getting an email from me over the next week or so with an updated survey if you live on Wellesley Drive. And if you live on Wellesley Drive and did not provide your email, be checking your mail for a survey coming later this month. We will keep the survey open into April so we can make sure that everybody has a chance to respond. Really appreciate everybody's time tonight, especially on this quite pleasant night, although I think I hear rain outside or something during this meeting. But hope you all have a great night and a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Steve, and thanks to the design team.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.